What's going on, everybody? Cleebus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks for the Samsung Galaxy A14 to help you make the most of the camera setup. Now, keep in mind, this is not the A14 5G, this is a completely different phone, so if you do have the A14 5G and you want to know more about how to use the camera on that phone, I will be linking to that somewhere up here. Now, as far as the A14 4G goes, if you do want to learn more about this phone, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about it, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But with that being said, let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to take high efficiency photos and videos. So we're in the main camera screen right now, and essentially with this feature on, it's basically going to save you a bit of space by changing the file format for your photos and videos to something that's a bit smaller, but at the same time the quality is going to be pretty much the same. So to enable this, go to settings, and from here, there are two different things to turn on. First, for photos, right here where it says high efficiency pictures, turn this on. And now with this on, instead of a JPEG, your photos are now going to be HEIF files, which are basically going to be the same when it comes to quality, but the file size is a bit smaller, so if you're taking a lot of pictures, it's not going to take up as much space. And then for videos, under the video section right here, go to advanced video options, and then turn on high efficiency videos. Just like with the pictures, this option is going to change your videos to a smaller file size, so instead of MP4s, they're now going to be HEVC files, which is basically a smaller file size that again still has pretty much the same quality. Now this is definitely a great feature, but one thing I do want to point out is that depending on what you're doing, the compatibility might not be quite the same. Now in most situations, if you're putting the pictures or videos on social media for example, or even putting them into a photo or video editor, in most situations it's going to be perfectly fine and you can pretty much just ignore the file name. But at the same time, if you're trying to upload the photo to a specific website or something like that, you might want to check the compatibility, because in certain situations, when it specifically asks for like an MP4 or a JPEG or something like that, these file formats might not work. But again, in pretty much any normal situation, it should be completely fine. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to use the macro camera. Now in case you don't know, the macro camera is basically going to help you get real close-up detailed images, so definitely a nice feature to have. And with this phone, accessing the macro camera is really easy. So from the main camera screen once again, go to the More tab. Then from here, go to Macro. So we are in macro mode right now, where you can get really close-up detailed images. Now going back to that previous menu real quick, I'm going to show you what other modes we have in the More tab. So in addition to macro mode, we also have Pro mode, panorama, and food. So honestly, in general, compared to lots of other phones, there's really not a ton here, but at the same time, there is a decent amount of stuff. I mean, at least we have Pro mode and macro mode, but unfortunately it's missing stuff like time-lapse and slow-mo that I know a lot of people like, so that is kind of disappointing, but these are the modes it has. No, unfortunately, it does not have time-lapse, and it doesn't have slow-mo either. But in addition to this, say you're using macro mode all the time and you don't want to have to keep going to the More tab to get to it. What you can do is hit this plus icon right here, and now you can drag and drop pretty much any mode on here. And if you want, you can also remove stuff like portrait mode. Keep in mind the regular photo and video mode can't be changed, but anything else can be added to or removed from this bar. So we're going to go to macro mode, press and hold, drag it on here. Then from here, hit save. And as you can see, macro mode is now on the bar. Now I'm going to show you how to use the ultra-wide camera. Now unlike its 5G counterpart for some reason, the Samsung Galaxy A14 4G actually does have an ultra-wide camera, so with this phone you can get those wider angle photos. To do this, simply hit the 0.5 right here. And as you can see, you can fit a lot more in the frame. And then to go back, hit the 1. And now we're back to normal. In addition to this, with this phone, if you ever want to zoom really quickly, all you have to do is hit this 2 right here, and it's going to zoom right in. In addition to this, you can go to 4x, 10x, or 0.5. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to change your aspect ratio. Now by default, like pretty much any smartphone that exists in 2023, your aspect ratio is going to be 3:4, or if you go into video, it's going to be 9:16 or 16:9. So pretty standard here. But if you ever want to change this, all you have to do is go up here where it says 3:4, tap on this icon. From here, you can go to 9:16, 1:1, or 3:4 at 50 megapixels. Now about this aspect ratio, keep in mind that by default, despite having a 50 megapixel camera, when you're taking photos in normal photo mode, it's not actually going to use the entire 50 megapixels. The reason being, if it did, each photo would take up quite a bit more space. So if you do ever want to use the full 50 megapixels, you can go to 3:4 at 50 megapixels and you can get much higher quality images. Now in my experience, especially considering this phone has micro SD card expansion anyway, it's not really that much of a difference. I mean, in 50 megapixel mode, the photos take up no more than 20 megabytes each. So So in general, if you want to use this all the time, then feel free to. There's plenty of storage on this phone anyway. But at the same time, if you really want to save space, then you are going to want to stick with the regular mode. And then also keep in mind, when it comes to aspect ratio, in the video mode, the options are a bit different. So if we go here, again by default, it is going to be 9:16, but you can also do 1:1 or full, so there's no 3:4 here. And also, in case you didn't know, I kind of forgot to mention it, but full is the entire aspect ratio of the display, which in the case of this phone is 20:9. Now I'm going to show you how to take a burst shot. Now this is really easy to do, and in case you don't know what it is, a burst shot is basically a bunch of pictures taken at once. Now to be perfectly honest, I don't really know what the real life application is. Maybe if you want to get like a bunch of photos of something, but I'm not really a photographer, so I don't 100% know. But regardless, if you ever do want to take a burst shot, all you have to do is swipe down the shutter like this. It's going to take up to 30. And there we go. And now if we go to the photos, as you can see, there are 30 different photos in here. In addition to this, you can also have it create a GIF instead. So to do this, go to settings. From here, where it says swipe shutter button to, tap here. As you can see, again by default, it will take a burst shot, but if we go to create GIF, go back to the camera. Just like with the burst shot, you can do up to 30 frames. And now if we go to the photos, there it is. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is what you can do with the volume keys. Now by default, if you press either volume key, it's going to either take a photo or record a video depending on the mode you're in. So if I go like this, volume down and volume up, same thing, but we have a couple different options here. So to change it, go to settings. From here, go to where it says shooting methods. So it's going to be right here. And from the top, where it says press volume keys to, tap here. Again, by default, it is set to take a picture or record a video. You can also have it zoom or control the system volume. Now, this last one is kind of useless, so I'm going to do zoom. Then from here, let's go back to the camera. And now, volume up is going to zoom in. And volume down zooms out. And it does go all the way to the ultra-wide camera, so pretty cool. I personally still feel like the default is probably the most useful here, but if you ever do want it to zoom or control the system volume, it's nice that it is an option. Now I'm going to show you how to turn on the grid lines. Now this is a feature I personally use all the time. Even on my personal phone, I just have it on 24/7. I don't know why, I guess I'm just so used to using my camera like that it just feels wrong without it. But regardless, if you do want to turn on the grid on this phone, all you have to do is go to settings, scroll down a bit until you see grid lines. So right here, toggle it on, and now go back to the camera. And as you can see, the grid is now on. Now, some people might find this useful, some people won't. Again, I personally use it all the time, but if you haven't already, I definitely recommend giving it a try because who knows, you might end up liking it. The next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called the floating shutter button. Now this is basically going to give you a second shutter button, so if you're holding the camera at an awkward angle like this, maybe you're trying to take a selfie or something, you won't have to reach to the shutter button and risk dropping your phone. So while it is kind of situational, it's definitely a nice feature to have. So to turn this on, go to settings. From here, go to that one menu we were just at, so shooting methods. So right here. Then from here, toggle on floating shutter button. Go back to the camera. And as you can see, there's a second shutter on the screen. You can move it wherever you want. So definitely nice to have. And to turn it off, go back to the same menu, so settings, from here, shooting methods, toggle it off, and there we go. And then finally, the last thing I'm going to show you is a quick way to get to your camera no matter what you're doing on your phone. So for this, it is on by default, so you don't need to do anything special to activate it. All you have to do is double press your power key like this, and it's going to open right up. So let's try that one more time, this time on an app. There we go. And the cool thing is it even works when the phone is locked. So let's try it one more time. And there we go. But this concludes my camera tips and tricks video for the Samsung Galaxy A14 4G. Again, if you want to learn more about this phone, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about it, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalibas Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.